This segment is sponsored by our friends at PGX Grading Services. Discover real people, fast turnaround times, alternative to CGC, shipping nationwide. Hello and welcome to the exciting episode of Codename New to Vero 2. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You? Well, this is episode number 3 in our new segment for graded comics. That's right. I pick out 4 random issues of GIJoe from my graded collection. We talk about those issues briefly and feature them, and then showcase why it is advantageous to get these issues graded and in case. But before we start all that, I'm excited about the classified barbecue. Now, if you watched my top 10 episode, I think it was about a couple years ago, I had barbecue rated as my number 1 figure because it has sentimental value to me. Let me pull barbecue out from here. As I said in that episode, this was my gateway into GIJoe, this figure in particular. I've said that my dad was a Marine during the Vietnam era, and one of his rules was, he hated war so much, he didn't want any of us to play with anything with guns. So GIJoe initially was off the menu, but, seeing barbecue and how much I liked it and stuff, that rule would later relax for me. But man, this classified, we're probably going to have to do an episode of this, but this... I initially hated the thought of 6-inch G.I. Joes. I just thought it was blasphemy. But more and more they're starting to win me over. And they're doing better and better as the series is progressing. A new wave has been announced. So again, I'm just glad that, we're supporting this and, getting more action figures and characters. I hope it translates into an animated series or something to draw in a younger audience to preserve GIJoe. All right, so with that aside, let's look in this week's 4 comics that we picked for this episode. All right, so let's kick off this episode outright. And the first book I wanted to feature is GIJoe issue number 4. I think the significance of this particular issue kind of gets forgotten in the sense that, issue 1 was supposed to be a one-off, that was it. And then, due to the success of GIJoe issue number 1, frantically issue number 2 and 3, you could see that it was put together kind of quickly. But by issue number 4, the world building began in GIJoe. And at this time, Snake Eyes was still a commando. He was still a co-star. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a role player, Hawk and Grunt going into this, militia group that was funded by Cobra. It has a very sad and eerie feeling to a lot of what's going on today in 2021, in the sense that, as we know, again, I don't want to be political or anything, but, there's a lot of these militia groups that are domestic terror that are out there. And this is basically featuring that notion, that mindset of trying to cause disruption from within, in the sense that this organization's goal, the thing's called First Strike. Yeah, it's called First Strike. And it's founded by one person, what's his name? Whitmore or Whittington? There was a guy who's not a regular character. He was just a one and done featured, but he was the head of this compound, training recruits and stuff to join his militia. It is scary in the sense that their goal is to have actions within the U.S. and then one in Russia to kind of put the two superpowers against each other, because this was in the midst of the Cold War. But anyway, you see Hawk and Grunt, and also Snake Eyes is the guy he's playing lookout. He's up in a tree, calling out, I don't know how he's letting the guys know, I guess via Morse code of, 2 clicks away, calling out positions to the guys that are in the infiltrating this camp. They're basically in disguise. But again, this issue often gets overlooked. And I think the significance of it, now that we get a chance to revisit some of these issues again in this graded segment, This is really important. And then you got a beautiful Herb Trimpe cover. Classic Herb Trimpe cover. And, that's the cool thing about now that I'm becoming familiar with stuff, Hulk 180, 181, and then Hulk 182, all Herb Trimpe. The how many important covers that man did is astonishing. And then you get to actually, you could pick out his artwork, and see that, oh, this is definitely, I mean, look at Scarlet and then Snake Eyes, the Herb Trimpe version of these iconic characters. This is a book that is definitely, you should get graded. Now, this one is a reader copy at 5.5. And like I mentioned earlier, with G.I. Joe, it's tough to find mint pristine condition comics because mostly they look like this, and they've been loved, so to speak, as I called it. But this is definitely an issue you should consider. And look, it's beautifully done. I like the back. You got the Atari Star Wars game. That's why I love these old comics, is just seeing the advertisements that are associated with each book. Man, great story. Great issue. So this is definitely one. If you have it, just get it submitted for grading. Alrighty, so the second issue we're going to show off in this third episode is the iconic milestone issue, G.I. Joe number 100. And what makes this book is the very first page with that crazy, hilarious panel of Cobra Commander kicking the dog. Now, this issue is really, it's a double issue, so there's a lot of stuff going on, and this is definitely worth getting graded. We have so many things that happen. Let's see, let me look at my notes here. So Cobra Commander returns from the dead, and immediately he takes over this town called Millville that Spirit and Mutt are just so happen to be visiting. Like, what are the chances of that? That they're out on quote-unquote vacation and Cobra Commander's, occupying that very place. The other thing, it's also, we also have these two teenagers. What's their names? Roxy and Tiff. Yeah, I just wrote that down because I never remember them. They only were in like 2-3 issues. But basically, these two teenage fangirls did something that no Cobra, no other international intelligence agency, nobody with, vast budgets and high tech, they successfully infiltrated the pit. That is ridiculous. And at the same time, we have Clutch and Rock and Roll under some mind control, and Zorana is trying to she's also debuting the Python Patrol, so they're trying to look in that same vicinity to see if they know where the pit's somewhere there, but they don't know exactly where. The Mobile Command Headquarters makes its debut. So many cool things happen in this issue. It is definitely worth getting graded. And we have a newsstand variant. That's one I target mostly for my collection. This one got a 7.0, but the colors of this one is absolutely beautiful. The red backdrop matching with the Cobra symbol. And red covers are notoriously terrible to keep clean. So this being a 7.0 newsstand red cover and looking like this is absolutely a home run. So I definitely recommend, if you have this issue, to also get it submitted. In the back, we got some Lucky Charms stuff. But anyway, yeah, issue number 100 is just that first page. That first page alone is definitely, once I saw that as a kid, I would just, to this day, it's still funny. Issue number 100. Now, the next issue is going to be kind of difficult. Now, I got issue number 12 graded because I have a lot of them already graded. But I'm going to recommend, even if you have this issue, to hold off getting graded. I don't see any potential growth in terms of, if by some chance Dr. Venom or Quinn is introduced to a live action adaptation or something, then I could see this issue skyrocketing in value. But for now, by itself, it doesn't have much growth potential or warrants being graded. But that doesn't stop me. I'm a real fan. I don't care about the monetary value. I just think it was cool. And this is, to a G.I. Joe fan, this is a very important issue on the flip side of that. In the sense, it's one of the early introductions to probably one of the top 3 G.I. Joe story arcs of all time, the Dr. Venom story arc. And again, we're still feeling the effects from that story arc now in current G.I. Joe and IDW. And I think around issue number 260, I talked about how the ghost of Dr. Venom returned. Like, kind of like, in Captain America, where that Hydra nerdy scientist was in the computer. Well, I think Larry Hama kind of stole that and did the same for Dr. Venom, where he was like a AI, and he started like downloading himself onto bats and going crazy. So G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe had to act and stop Dr. Venom again. But going back to issue number 12, another important thing is that Scarface, a character that there was never a toy or figure of, this is towards the end of his run on here. And like we have G.I. Joe, targeting him and giving chase and trying to apprehend. He was up there with Baroness and all the other eventual bad guys to enter G.I. Joe. But he was up there with Cobra Commander. Destro appeared an issue or so ago, so it's like he's still new. But we had Cobra Commander, and Scarface was one of the original first baddies, and Dr. Venom as well. So it's just funny that Dr. Venom, Scarface, and Quinn didn't have a figure. Again, like, it's important in the whole G.I. Joe mythos is that finally this big first story arc is starting to flex his muscles, and the readers are just, this is like that skyrocket going up. So that's why this issue is important. The other cool thing about this issue is really much relevant to today, in the sense that we have General Flag and Hawk talking about Silicon Valley, the impact of technology in terms of national security. And not too long ago, we had a whole thing about WikiLeaks and the Russians affecting the election for, Trumpy. But anyway, like, this was 1980, what was it? 83. I didn't know if it was 82 or 83, but again, this was 1983, guys. The fact that the foresight of that is absolutely amazing. You got to remember 1983 and what was going on. Nintendo didn't even come out yet. The NES wasn't even out yet. So I guess I don't even think the Apple II, was the Apple II out? I know the Commodore 64 was out. So that's about it. That's what we're talking about as far as personal computers go. So this is another issue that I think that it's good for a G.I. Joe fan, but does it worth being graded and encased? I'm going to say no, but if you're a fan like me, I got this graded because of those reasons. I think this is very important in the story arc. So that's why we got issue number 12 graded and encased. Okay, so the last issue for this week's 4 comics is going to be a huge one. Now, it's funny, about 8 months ago, I did a trending G.I. Joe comics. Since I've been doing this for several years, I remember just going anywhere and being able to buy any issue I wanted, minus 21, 1, and 155 for like less than $10. I'm being serious here. And in that episode, I said that is not the case. Case in point, this issue, which I got for $6. And in that episode, because of the Amazon News of a Lady J series, this book shot up through the roof. You're looking at a book that I paid $6 for. That's well over $100 in value. It's a little bit of a lower grade at 6.5, but it is a newsstand, the yellow background. And again, this is it's not a good cover, but still, I mean, it's funny because I watched some modern comic YouTubers, and when this appeared in the top 10 of the most trending comics several months back, that's what they noted. Like, how a comic that's one of the most hideous. I mean, these are non GI Joe fans, but they were just saying how hideous this cover is. Um, it's not super duper great, but still, it's what's inside that matters. So we had introduction of Lady J, Ripcord. I think did who else? Not Barbecue. There's another character, but there's like 3 or 4 introductions in this issue alone, and it's right in the middle. It's a very brief panel, just typical. They call out their names and they say their names and introduce themselves. And then it goes back into the main story arc. But this is a book that definitely, if you have, no matter what, to send this to get graded and encased, because that Lady J spinoff has generated a lot of buzz, and hopefully it's successful that warrants more live action spin-offs. But this could be the issue that started this trend, so it's definitely worth getting graded and encased and sending it off to PGX or EGS, whichever one. PGX did great with this book, and I love how they just made it clean in the front, and in the back we have Risk, and I hang this one up on the wall because of its value. But again, GI Joe 32 is one of those issues that has skyrocketed in the past years, and I've done my normal recaps advising the fan base to definitely be on the lookout, pull their issue, send it into grading. But this is another ranking. It's starting to get up there. It's not quite issue 21 or 1 or 155, but it's that one tier below that as far as significance and impact, that even modern comic people that are not G.I. Joe fans have been targeting this issue, trying to get I actually had 3 copies of this, and I was able to sell the other 2. They were even worse condition than this one. This one is a newsstand, and I thought it was better than the other 2 when I sold those raw copies, and I sent this one out to grading. But this is another book you should definitely keep track of and send it in for grading ASAP because of the significance that's happening out. I still haven't heard any new news from the Lady J series, but I'm sure, as Christmas, probably after the holiday season, as they start advertising for new seasons of other stuff, you'll start hearing maybe a trailer or something like that around Super Bowl time. But anyway, this is definitely one to get and send into grading. Alrighty, so that does it for today's episode, today's 4 issues. What do you guys think? What is your feelings about these 4 issues? I definitely would like to hear some comments, and I hope people in these G.I. Joe Facebook groups, the big thing that I hear from Masters of the Universe fans, from Star Wars fans, from Transformers fans, is the fact that they kind of look down on the G.I. Joe community. Like, you guys don't support each other. You have the set YouTube content creators, and the people in your groups don't support your channels. And I'm talking about everybody, from Forum BX257, HCC, Timmer, me, G.I. Joeberg, Joe Motion, all these guys that put out G.I. Joe content for the fans. And excuse me, but you guys out there in these groups need to support us. None of us are looking to quit our normal jobs and make money off of YouTube. But it's just that fan support, knowing that our fellow fans have our back and are enjoying our hard work and content. That's what matters the most for this community. So if you haven't, kindly hit like and subscribe, and don't just do it for my channel. Do it for all the G.I. Joe YouTubers. Show them that you're going to do your support and do your part in this great community. Anyway, this is Shabu RU signing off.